guys, this is Phil the MMA Dude back with the 11th episode of the Split Decision podcast, here with my brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing today, man?
Doing excellent. This is episode 11.2 though, Phil. Tell them the truth.
This is indeed episode 11.2. We recorded for about 20 or 25 minutes, a pretty painful amount of time, and the recording, the program quit. It said it has unexpectedly quit, and now it's part 2. So
let's do it.
Let's go and repeat everything we just said. So quick agenda for the day. We're going to very briefly touch on the Nevada State Athletic Commission hearings that were yesterday, but that'll be very quick. Then we're going to move on to Bellator 214 reaction, a lot to discuss there. And then UFC Fight Night, Assunção versus Moraes 2. We're going to preview that, a.k.a. UFC Fortaleza. Finally, my favorite section, the listener questions. Does that all sound good with you, Fight Geek?
Excellent. Let's kick it off.
Okay, so as you know, the Nevada State Athletic Commission hearings were yesterday for Conor McGregor, Khabib, and John Jones, but my question for you only revolves around one of those figures, Khabib. So he announced through his manager, Ali, shortly after the hearings yesterday, that despite getting only 9 months of a suspension for his part in the post-fight incidents at UFC 229, that he is in fact going to sit out until his two teammates, it may have been just one teammate who's in the UFC, I'm not sure, but possibly two, who were given 1 year suspensions. He's going to sit out until they are clear. Therefore, he is targeting a return in November at MSG and would be waiting out an extra 4 to 6 months while healthy to wait for them, targeting that November MSG date. So let me ask you this. Should Khabib be stripped of his lightweight title because of that? Yes or no, go.
I do not think so. And the reason I don't think so is because the precedent or lack of precedent breaking of precedent has been set with Conor McGregor. Do you know off the top of your head how long he went without being stripped as the lightweight champion?
I believe it was a year and a half, roughly.
Exactly. And that is something especially Khabib and his team are going to use as leverage. Every time something comes down on Khabib and Ali, they turn around and point to Conor and use him as the example of how they want to be treated. So I think that there's no way the UFC is going to get away with stripping him when they allowed Conor to hold it for much longer as an inactive champion.
Okay, absolutely, I hear you. I would counter with this. I think that Conor having the belt for as long as he did at lightweight, it was absurd, a total joke, and horrendous for the sport. I'd put that on Dana White's shoulders, and I would say that it wasn't creating precedent when they let Conor get away with holding the belt for an absurdly long amount of time. It was breaking precedent, which had been for many years, up until that point, the unwritten rule that for the most part, you have to defend at least once a year, or you will be stripped of the belt. I know there's exceptions to every rule, and there had been in the past, but that was the rule. So the question is, do you now destroy the entire sport because of Conor's special treatment, or do you go back to making it right? That's my opinion.
Well, it's like, once the cat's out of the bag, how do you put it back in there? I mean, it's not something they're controlling. Now, Khabib has the leverage as the UFC lightweight champion. Obviously, he's suspended, but you also are aware who his agent is and his manager is. He has one of the more powerful string pullers in the industry representing him. So I just don't see the UFC being able to take his belt based on the fact that they allowed Conor to do what he did. Right. As the champion.
Okay, so you don't see them taking the belt. That's interesting.
I think they should, personally, because of the antics and the long layoff. I just don't think they'll be able to politically actually take it from him, personally.
Wait a second. Didn't you just say a second ago that he should not be stripped?
Well, I'm saying this is the argument I believe they will use, is they're going to leverage their situation against Conor's situation as the champion. They're going to say, well, Conor was allowed to hold the belt for X amount of days before being stripped and went through this and left the sport and boxed. And because of that, the UFC is not going to have a valid reason to take Khabib's belt when he's willing to come back in November and defend it in MSG.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that, personally, I would like to see Khabib stripped. But before all the Khabib fans come at me, because I can feel it happening, just hear me out here. My only reasoning is that he is waiting out those extra months after his suspension is finished for his teammates who, let's be honest, whether or not you think it was a morally, correct decision, to jump Conor, in the cage, whether or not you agree with that, I don't like the idea of the lightweight champion sitting out while healthy and able to defend the belt purely due to teammates' behavior and their punishment.
Out of principle.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think they will strip him.
You don't?
I don't.
Okay. That's interesting.
And that brings us back around to what we were talking about earlier, where I was saying if they were to strip him, or if he is suspended and not going to be defending, I would make the interim belt between Tony and Dustin, which you replied that the interim belts don't mean anything anymore, so that would actually be pointless.
Well, of course they don't. Tony already won the interim belt, let's remember that, and what did he get for it? He got a whole sack of nothing. He was punished for it, if anything, and by the way, then they gave Colby Covington an interim belt, and he was punished for winning that. So I would say anyone who fights for an interim belt is not just an idiot, but they're a sucker. And they deserve all the hatred and all the jokes that will come with it. And how could you possibly react any other way? They're clearly jokes since 2018. They used to be legit, but Dana destroyed them. There's no going back.
So you suggest they strip Khabib and allow Tony and Dustin to fight for the real belt?
That would be the most, if you're treating this like a true sport, that would definitely be the move to make. Now,
and then you unify at MSG in November?
Well, no, unify, because unifying,
the lineal champ will still be Khabib. He's never lost his belt. So if you strip him, the mythic champion will still remain Khabib, because no one has seen him lose as the champion.
Oh, yes. Okay, I hear you. Then yes.
So unifying in the mythical sense of the word, the champion who didn't take it from the champion will fight the person who is really the champion, which will remain Khabib, because we haven't seen him lose. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to be clear, I don't want Khabib to be stripped. What I'm hoping for is that he's going to change his mind and decide to fight a little earlier than November, even if it's as late as September. I think ideally August is pretty fair, but even if it's September, even if it's the very beginning of October, as long as it's really, really close to that 1 year.
Is that just the fight fan in you wanting to see him back in the cage, or is that because you believe they need to restore order?
No, thank you for asking. That is 100% because they need to restore order in this absolutely stacked division, and I've always felt the same way. I've been very consistent with this. 1 year you should be given where ideally you defend more than once a year, but you're given up to 1 year to defend your belt before it is in serious danger of being stripped. I've always felt that way. People will say, oh, well, look at what happened with Conor. Yeah, what happened with Conor is a disgrace. Are we supposed to ruin the rest of the sport for everybody forever?
Well, what happened with Conor is the reason we have so many champions and fighters thinking they can cherry pick fights. That's the whole problem with the scenario.
Yeah, people were cherry picking fights before Conor came along. Just not as badly.
Not quite as transparent
I agree.
as Conor was,
I agree. But,
it's one of those things.
Yeah.
As soon as you become a champion in the UFC, you start making demands and trying to pick your fights. That's the problem. And I think that trend really was amplified by Conor McGregor.
Yes, I agree. And last thing I wanted to say about this, and then we're going to move on to Bellator 214 because there's a lot to discuss there, is while it would make the most sense to do Tony versus Dustin for the lightweight title and then have Khabib fight for the lightweight title upon his return in November at MSG. Well, that would make the most sense. The inner fight fan within me would prefer to see Tony versus Max Holloway, frankly. I think that is the fight to make for the lightweight belt while Khabib is waiting it out on the sidelines. Let the winner face Khabib. That would be pretty awesome.
I could not disagree more.
Really? Wow. You think Dustin is a shot against Tony?
We have a stagnant top 4 of the lightweight division. All of them are absolutely historically great. Whether you like them or you don't like them, they're your style, they're not style.
Dustin is
the top
1-1.
4 lightweight fighters in the world right now are all historically great.
Dustin's 1-1 in his last 2.
Who?
Dustin
Poirier. The names he's beating and the way he's competing is as one of the elite light heavyweights in history.
Why did that just rhyme?
Lightweights, excuse me.
You just rhymed. I don't like when you rhyme the sentence. No,
sorry.
It actually sounded cool. I'm kind of jealous.
All right, long story short. People hate on Dustin Poirier all the time. I don't know what more you want that guy to show you. You can go through his whole career. He basically matured from a young, early 20s fighter to a completely worldwide elite mixed martial artist. The guy is sponsored by Everlast. He's got one of the best boxing games there is. He's an athletic fighter. He has all the experience in the world against all the best fighters in the world. I mean, look at the guy's resume. Win, lose, or draw, he's fighting everybody on that roster that's within reach of him that's worth a damn. You know, I don't understand the hate for Dustin Poirier.
No,
I think it's clear as day.
I know
he's one of the best fighters in the world.
He's
clear as
great.
Day.
He's great. He's great. I would.
He's not the most flashy guy, and he doesn't have a gimmick, so maybe that's why people don't buy in to him as much. But I watched Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier live in the crowd and experienced that. And Dustin Poirier's a bad dude, man. He's a bad dude.
Yeah, I guess I just selfishly rather see Tony Max, but I hear you.
I mean, Tony Max is an epic fight, but I mean, the lightweight division, they need to restore order there. There's too many killers that are not fighting.
I hear you.
There's too many guys that aren't moving. We need to move that division.
All right, and on that note of moving the division, let's move along to Bellator 214 reaction. So, Ryan Bader becomes the first double champ in Bellator history, defeating Fedor, the last emperor, at 35 seconds of the first round via KO through a hook punch that just put Fedor on his ass. What do you think?
Well, like I was saying earlier, I think that Ryan Bader, even though there's a lot of hate, a lot of people who are trying to dismiss his Bellator accomplishments, is clearly the third best light heavyweight on the planet today. Obviously, Jones and DC need to work out their saga. And I'm not saying this because Bader beat a 42-year-old Fedor Emelianenko. The guy was 7-1 on his way out of the UFC. I'm not positive what he is in Bellator. I think he's like 5-0. Potentially 6-0.
Yeah, 5 or 6-0 maybe.
He's their first champ. So he's like 12-1, 13-1 in his last how many fights? The guy deserves respect. We're not saying that he's pound for pound the best fighter in the world because that's not accurate. But he is clearly one of the top 3 or 4 light heavyweights in the world, and people should respect that accomplishment, or they're just being haters, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair. One idea that I've heard floated around the Twitterverse lately is Mousasi versus Bader at 205. And as you know, Mousasi's got a very distinguished career at 205. I would love to see that fight. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great fight, man. Mousasi actually used to be the Strikeforce light heavyweight champion for a short reigns.
Yeah.
So he's very accomplished at 205. I think that's probably skill-wise the best 205 title bout that they could put on in Bellator. But the old Tito Ortiz fan from back in the day in me thinks that there's Bader. Tito has something over Bader, and I think that there is some interest in Bader actually going back to fight Tito. Now, I don't know if Bellator is
crazy
enough to put Tito into a title fight, but I think there's something there. And obviously makes no sense at all. But do you think this is something Bellator could do?
I mean, of course, but I feel like Tito really to just jump into a title fight, especially thinking of the politics of going directly against
But the
Bellator.
problem with the hierarchy in Bellator is do you even know who the number 2 ranked 205er for them is?
No, because they don't have rankings, right?
Right, but off the top of your head,
Chael,
come on. Chael just got destroyed by Fedor, who lost with one punch to Bader.
Well, Chael's not a heavyweight. He shouldn't have been in a heavyweight tournament.
Well, he should definitely not be fighting the heavyweight champion of Bellator then.
But Tito should be fighting a guy behind the 7-Eleven parking lot.
The only reason Tito has a wing and a prayer in this matchup is because he's won in the past. I don't think he'd beat him today. No way.
I mean, would he even make it competitive? Come on, be honest.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
like I said, I think Bader's the 3rd best light heavyweight in the world at this point. You agree?
I'm not sure. Anthony Smith versus Bader would be interesting.
I don't think it would be interesting. I think I would favor Bader at this point versus Anthony Smith pretty favorably. That's just my opinion.
All right. I know. It's so cool to be like, oh, rest in peace, Anthony, you fucking idiot. Ha ha
ha. No, Anthony's a great fighter,
you.
But I think that Bader has proven over time and over multiple promotions that he is a good fighter. He's not maybe the best fighter in the world, but he's certainly an elite fighter, and he's certainly a top 5 fighter in the world in his class. No doubt.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, you know me. I'm a big Anthony Smith fan, so that might be a little bit of my bias coming out. I mean, obviously, Bader would have an amazing chance against him, so, hard to disagree with that.
Last point on this,
yeah.
Fedor takes a tough loss, 1-punch KO. He's 42 years old, 45 fights into his career. He's obviously a legend. I consider him one of the top 3 fighters in history. Is this time for him to say goodbye?
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have more proof that Fight Geek does not look at my Twitter page because I did address this on Twitter, but as you know, he will do anything to avoid my page or interacting with it, which is fine. I get how you feel. So, anyways, I said that he definitely now is time for him to hang up the gloves. I got a lot of pushback, a lot of hate from that, though. There's some very, very diehard Fedor fans who do not want to hear that.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'm a diehard Fedor fan. I love Fedor. I was actually pulling for him very heavily and, almost
I was too.
Thought that there was a chance. But, at this point, I don't think there's any relevant matchups for him. I don't think there's anything left for him to prove in any way, shape, or form. So, with the Mitrione KO and now this KO and the fact that he's so advanced in age, there's really no reason to see someone that revered take any more punishment and put himself in a bad situation as he continues to age. I would like to see him walk away. I think the last 2 performances against Mir and Chael gave us something really nice to go out on. We've got that last chapter of Fedor, a couple wins in Bellator, but I think you saw what happens when you put him in there with one of the elite fighters in the world. And if he's not going to fight the best guys, there's no reason for Fedor to go back fight the Tim Johnsons of the world and people like that. It's time to move on, in my opinion.
I completely agree. So, yeah.
So that's that.
All right,
which brings us to the most shocking result of the weekend.
The shootout at the OK Corrales.
Wow, you got that in your back pocket.
I wasn't going to notice you were trying to announce. I was like, no, I got to talk over him so I can say that line.
Well, that was... I always say to people that are fans of football and baseball that it takes 2.5 hours to get interesting in those sports. Well, this sport it takes about 2.5 seconds to get interesting, and that's exactly what Corrales versus Pico showed. Mm-hmm. Crazy, man. Pico hit so hard. He has so much confidence. He just ran in, hurt Corrales. Obviously, I feel like his inexperience and his youthful confidence led him to just get into a firefight when he didn't need to, and he gets caught in the clinch and gets KO'd clean. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, I really want. I mean, you know how I feel about Aaron Pico. I really want to take the T.J. Dillashaw route and just say that Pico did not lose. End
Yeah,
of story.
Where's Mario Yamasaki when you need to be a warrior?
I don't think that would have saved Aaron, and in fact, that may have put him in an early grave.
Right.
But yeah, look, credit to Corrales. I mean, that was an exciting minute and 7 seconds. I'll say that because
Unbelievable.
yeah, I mean Pico hurt him, right? Pico knocks him down, and then from there he just gets so. See, he really
You know what's kind of being overlooked, and I haven't seen anybody say this, but
yeah
the fact that Corrales was hurt and is such a veteran that he was able to recover, compose himself, and land a finishing blow, I
yeah
think that says a lot for Corrales. And you know what I think it says a lot for? MMA experience.
yep, no doubt.
And there are levels to this. And you know what Aaron is doing, because he's so gifted and he's so talented, is he's skipping levels. He's
Right.
not fighting the 4-2s or the 5-1s or the 8-4s or the 11-5s. He is fighting guys who are Leandro Higo, who I'm off the top of my head, what was he, 18-4? This guy's 16-4. These are experienced fighters with 4 or 5 times the experience of him. And he just doesn't have that kind of ring or cage savvy that the other guys do, and I think it really bit him in the ass this weekend. He got into a firefight when he didn't have to, and he got caught, and it was shocking result, man. My jaw was on the floor.
Yeah, I was. I may or may not have been sobbing hysterically into a pillow, but we don't need to talk about that. No, I was honestly very upset. But look, I mean, Aaron fights a little bit like Gaethje. He just kind of goes out there and he just tries to, just take just tries to tough it
Even more
out.
so than Gaethje. At least Gaethje will do some leg kicks and play the game a little. It looks like Aaron comes out and just runs across the cage and starts landing hooks to the body and power punches to the head. I didn't
Yep.
see much of any game plan other than I'm going to go knock this guy out in 20 seconds.
Yep.
That's
And
just what I saw.
yeah, I completely agree. And, he doesn't utilize his wrestling, which obviously is what he was known for, but, before MMA. Like to see him utilize that wrestling. And what was weirdest to me is just, and again, this is such a high level of MMA that I can't truly, in any way know what that is like, obviously. But one would think, having been in, a few Muay Thai fights, many boxing matches, I just would think that what was odd for me is that Pico didn't seem bothered by Henry's strikes at all until it slept him. And
Yeah, that's
that's weird.
the uber confidence, man. That is Aaron Pico. I mean, really believes he's that dude. And when you believe like that, you are careless because you think you're going to knock people out in 20 seconds. So, and if you watch that finishing sequence, Henry's got him in the clinch and he's going to the body. I
Yep.
think 3+ times, and then he comes up high and he just happens to land the perfect shot coming off all the body shots right to the head. I just think Pico, again, how much cage time does Pico have in the clinch?
Right.
I don't know if we've ever seen him in the clinch. That may have been his first clinch exchange in his career.
I know, but wouldn't you think that if Aaron was feeling the shots, which he clearly was, and was just hiding and toughing
Well,
through,
he does
he would
have a
back up?
22-year-old chin, and if you understand what that means, is the kid's resilient. He's tough. He's
Yeah.
gonna take a shot.
Yeah.
He's not feeling that until it lands on the button. So I just think he has an uber physical confidence that needs to come to terms with some kind of fight strategy. You can't just march across the cage and start throwing power punches. You have to have some strategy to it. That's just my opinion.
No, absolutely. Okay,
So what's next for Aaron Pico? That's the big question. Do you take a break? Do you schedule lesser competition? Or do we stay status quo and we find him someone who's, one of the top-tiered guys in Bellator and let him bounce back?
So I have a fight in mind, a very specific fight that I would love, and I want
Let's
your
hear it.
opinion. James Gallagher.
Who's scheduled, though? He's scheduled.
Win or lose, James
Win-
Gallagher.
I don't like that fight for James personally. And if
That's exactly why I like the fight.
If you listen to the press conference, the post-fight press conference, did you listen to Pico's post-fight?
Yeah, he was what a class act, right? He was so classy.
Showed up, owned it like a pro's pro.
Looked great in that suit, excellent in that suit, rocked it.
But what he said that I found was interesting is that if you match him up with 4-2 and 5-1 and similar experience level guys, he's going to start hurting people. And I kind of believed him. So it makes it difficult because, he's marching across the cage against 25 veterans, and Corrales has been in a Bellator title fight before, and he had him hurt within 30 seconds. So, I mean, even though Aaron lost, let's not get it twisted. The guy has sick power. He's hurt everyone he's fought against, pretty much. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think you give him the can route and let him build wins. I think he's too competitive for that. I think you find a fringe guy, a little beneath the quality of Corrales. And, I don't have that guy off the top of my head. I don't have the Bellator rankings in front of me. But
how about Gallagher if Gallagher wins? Can we agree on that?
But I don't think that's in Bellator's interest because you're going to kill off another prospect. They need both of those guys to win. They have
no one likes Gallagher. After the Bendejas incident, no one likes Gallagher except the most diehard Gallagher fans. I mean, the kid's a tool and needs to get his ass kicked. Sorry, guys. Yeah,
I said
it.
Got his ass kicked. So
Gallagher sucks.
And now they're feeding him cans. They gave him the back to the beginning route, which I think they'll probably try to do with Pico. I think Pico's team is so confident in him that they want to put him in relevant fights. They don't want him fighting guys that we ain't ever heard of because there won't be as much of an attachment to that fight.
Yeah,
so it'll be
that's
interesting
ridiculous.
to see who they have for him going forward.
Just to quickly say, I think that unlike James Gallagher, Pico is not a mentally tender little flower. James is, of course. But I don't think that Aaron should be treated like a baby. I think with James, you've got to put on the diaper and put him back to square one. He's clearly not ready for the big time. But Aaron has the real skill. So.
But what's next for Henry? Do you put him in a title fight after that?
I think you have to, or Henry versus AJ McKee.
That's an interesting fight.
And then that would obviously be a title eliminator.
Right. Okay. Well, that was interesting. So on to the next one.
On to the next.
A.K.A. Jack Swagger from the WWE. I know nothing about him, but I did watch his MMA debut. What did you think?
I thought he looked very good. I also thought, I don't know if this jumped out to you, but I just kept looking at him and saying, that dude, I've seen that dude like so many times. Like, I think he's in movies.
He's got that familiar feel.
I think and I haven't even looked this up since. I should have. I'm pretty sure he's been in movies as like a small character. I just
thought he's like, every high school wrestling coach in the country.
I've seen him so many. It looked so familiar, but he looked good. No, honestly,
he looked good. He was obviously set up to look good. 1-0.
Hey, J.W. Kaiser ain't no joke, okay? Listen, he runs an oil tycoon in 1867, and, his name's J.W. Kaiser. Come on.
Right.
I don't know what that means. That joke went nowhere, but I tried.
It's like a bicycle from the 1890s or something.
Yeah.
Seriously. Right, moving on. Juan Archuleta versus Ricky Bandejas. I loved this fight. I was very intrigued by this fight. If there was a fight of the night for Bellator, that was the fight of the night, in my opinion. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was really close. I felt it was a weird matchup going in when you were looking at their records because they're both so elite. And
it was a weird fight the way it played out. It was almost impossible to score.
I had no idea who won. I
did feel like in the second and third round that Ricky Bandejas was landing the heavier punches and keeping Archuleta at bay, stuffing his game. So I personally thought Bandejas may have done enough to win that fight. But that being said, Archuleta did have his moments, let's say, and very interesting. I like both guys. I think Juan Archuleta obviously is a guy that they should elevate, put in another fight against a named guy, if not a title fight. And then Ricky Bandejas, I wouldn't even chalk that up necessarily as a loss to him. It was almost like a push fight, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. No, Ricky completely held his own. In fact, you keep asking about Gallagher. What about if Gallagher wins his next fight, Bandejas too?
I don't know why Ricky would want to do that. I think
because he'll win easily and it's not a problem.
Right, but he just basically went, toe-to-toe with Archuleta and has a case in that fight. So we're saying Ricky Bandejas is probably one of the top 3 or 4 guys in that division in Bellator. Maybe top 5 guys, where I don't think Gallagher's in that range yet.
But Gallagher headlines Bellator cards, so this would
and small cards overseas against guys who you literally have never heard of. You have no idea who he's fighting, right?
I'm going to be honest. I have absolutely no idea who he's fighting.
I know who he's fighting, and I still have no fucking clue who he's fighting. So that's my point. Nobody cares about that fight. It's irrelevant. It's pointless.
I know, but I don't like James. I want to see him get beaten a bunch.
Well, you tune in. I'm sure that wasn't his last loss. So,
all right, good.
With that said, are we done with Bellator? You got any thoughts on the prelims? I thought it was a great card, top to bottom, all kinds of action.
Yep, thank you for bringing that up. I'm gonna say something very, very controversial here to end the Bellator 214 reaction. From top to bottom, I thought it was the most entertaining card in Bellator history. Do you agree or disagree? Go.
Most entertaining. I might give you most entertaining. Most high level, no, but it was certainly entertaining. From the Bader knockout to the Pico upset to the WWE guy debuting. Even I'll shout out Adel Altamini. I don't know if I said that all right, but he was the opener to the main card. He has a great backstory. I mean, if you want to know a crazy backstory, look into that. Came out, performed great, is going to be a fighter in Bellator moving forward. So, I mean, this card had all kinds of, it had a feel-good story, it had great prelims, it had shocking upsets, it had debuts of potential stars. Juan Archuleta proving himself and Ryan Bader solidifying himself as probably top 3 fighter on Bellator roster. Yes, very entertaining. I was completely happy with my time spent on the Bellator 214 card, and I like what Bellator is doing. I'm looking forward, and I mentioned this to you earlier this week, that I'm looking forward to see that next wave of free agents that move and where they go and where they land in 2019, because I promise you one thing, there's going to be another wave of free agents a la Rory and Mousasi and Henderson and Bader that are going to leave, and they're going to end up in Bellator. And Bellator is going to get 4 or 5 more staple fighters, and they're just going to get stronger, and their cards are just going to get better. And I'm really looking forward to it personally.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, I really do think that Bellator 214 was I want to stress, top to bottom, meaning including the prelims, the most exciting Bellator card to date. That is definitely my opinion. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention the one tiny exception on the card. Jesse Roberts defeats AJ Agazarm. AJ, I believe, is an arch nemesis in BJJ of Dylan Dennis. I think that may have defeated Mike Jackson beating CM Punk for worst fight I've ever seen. What do you think?
Was not entertaining. That's all I know. I don't really have many feelings on it one way or another. I know that
it was AJ, like getting waterboarded.
He had a little. It was like getting waterboarded.
Is that politically incorrect? Sorry.
It was like they were trying to feed us a prospect that just never got off. So we'll see what he does going forward. A little bit lackluster, in my opinion. Yeah. But that does lead us to UFC Fortaleza. Now this card looks real good.
Let's go! I'm so stoked because you know why I'm stoked. Because it's the Magic Man, baby. It's the Magic Plan.
It is the Magic Man. So let's kick it off. Who do you got in the rematch? Rafael Assunção or Marlon the Magic Man Moraes?
All right. So as much as I want to, say, Moraes is going to sleep him in the first round, in the first 10 seconds, I'm actually extremely nervous about this fight. Assunção is not a good stylistic matchup for Marlon, which is annoying because I believe that Marlon would absolutely destroy either Dillashaw or Henry Cejudo at 135. I think Assunção is the toughest.
Why are you under the impression that this is not a good stylistic matchup for him?
Because Assunção won the first fight, bro.
Right. Okay.
I mean, second of all, because you know how a Sun Sal fights. He is a sneaky ground expert, and he's a little bit like Damian Maya in a way, isn't he? I mean, is that?
Yeah, he's a little more methodical on the feet.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't pose a lot of danger on the feet, but I do think he's a little more versatile than Damian Maya on the feet. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from there.
Yeah. So, okay, to answer your question.
With that being said, I'm favoring Marlon Moraes in this rematch. I think his steam off his last 3 wins, and just his overall athleticism, striking prowess, and the fact that he's a former champion will propel him in this true #1 contender matchup to solidify himself as the next challenger for the belt versus TJ. And I want to see Marlon versus TJ badly. I know we'll probably see TJ versus Henry first at 135, but I want to see Marlon versus TJ at 135. I've been wanting to see that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I am hesitant to look past a Sun Sal, just because, I thought Dillashaw would destroy Cejudo. That didn't work out so good. I thought Cyborg would beat Nunez. That didn't work out so good. So I'm being a little bit more careful now. But I still say Moraes by 3rd round TKO over a Sun Sal.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say 2nd round KO.
Ooh.
I just think Moraes and his striking versatility, especially his head kicks, and he is so athletic.
Oh, quick.
Yeah. I just see I think he's trending upward. I'm going to ride the momentum on that and just say that he knocks him out and really solidifies himself as the #1 guy.
All right.
And that leads us to another great fight on the card. And this is the toughest fight to break down on the card. Jose Aldo versus Renato Moicano. Old guard versus new guard. Both Brazilians, both incredibly skilled on the feet and on the floor. What do you got?
Oh boy, do I love this fight. I love this fight. And by the way, I don't know if you caught it, but it was, several weeks ago, Dana was doing a presser for I think it was possibly the 232 post-fight presser. And they said, why isn't Aldo versus Moicano the main event? And he said, I totally agree with you. I asked Jose Aldo to be the main event, and he said he'd prefer to do 3 rounds. And to me, that was telling.
That's alarming.
Yes.
Well, what that is telling you is that Aldo's camp understands that he doesn't want to go 25 minutes with a younger fighter, especially on the heels of fading against Max Holloway. I think Aldo feels better. Even when Aldo was in his prime against guys like Frankie Edgar, against guys like Chad Mendez, he would fade in the later rounds. Even though he was one of the pound-for-pound greats in his prime, his one chink in his armor was the late rounds. So I think Aldo knows that. I think at this point in his career, he would be insane to get into a 5-round fight with someone like Moicano, who's much younger with a lot less wear and tear. And I think a 3-round fight favors Aldo. And with that being said, I'm actually taking Aldo in this fight. He's announced that he has 3 fights left and he's going to retire at the end of 2019. I think that announcement and the fact that I do believe him will lead him to be as dedicated as he's been. And I do see him narrowly escaping Moicano, who's a great up-and-comer. And if he were to be able to win, I think would line him up to be next in line for the title shot. But I'm going to take Jose Aldo in this fight. And I'm actually going to take Jose Aldo via stoppage in the 2nd round.
Wow. Me and you disagree.
Hashtag split decision.
Yeah. Okay, so fascinating.
So give it to me.
Yeah, so I think, as you know, there's been bad blood between these two for a long time, which is really interesting. I think that, as you just mentioned, Aldo's announcement about retirement, to me, that means that he is at least a little bit mentally out of it. He's not going to give every single.
You think that means he's checked out rather than super motivated?
Not checked out. That's an overreaction. But he's just not going to give it everything he has, and he's going to need everything he has against Moicano. So give me Moicano by unanimous decision, 2-1.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, if Aldo's able to get back to his leg kicks, which we really haven't seen him institute in a while, I think that would eliminate some of the mobility of Moicano. But the fact is Aldo gets hit quite a bit at this point. So if he can avoid getting hit, he's obviously the heavier puncher. So I'm taking Aldo. Moving on, we got an interesting matchup. Damian Maia coming off 3 horrible performances against the elite of the elite, taking on a guy in Lyman Good. You ever heard of him?
I have heard of Lyman Good. Thank you for your condescending tone. But yes.
Are you taking Lyman Good over Damian Maia? That is the question.
I am taking Lyman Good.
Wow. Lyman Good over Damian Maia.
Look, it's a tough fight to call. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and pontificate and pretend. It's a tough one between two people. Look, Damian Maia is obviously on the downside of his career. Lyman Good is not going to be a champ anytime soon, or let's just cut to the chase, ever. But I do still like his chances very narrowly. And he is, Lyman Good is an underdog. He's a plus 150 dog. But look, I see him edging out a decision because I think that Maia, he just, when he starts striking on the feet these days, if he gets tagged, he falls down on purpose to go into guard. He hopes people will meet him in guard. It's not going to happen. Sorry, Damian.
Damian Maia, in his last 3 fights, has fought Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, and Tyron Woodley, and been finished by
he's lost them
any
all.
of them.
He's 0-3, lost them all.
But he has not been finished.
Did I say that Good was going to finish him?
The difference in competition between those 3 names in his current matchup?
Absolutely. I never said
Do you think?
Yes, of course.
Do you think that Lyman Good looks like a breath of fresh mountain breeze?
Do you guys see what I'm dealing with? Do you see how condescending he is, guys? This is what I'm dealing with.
I just want to know. I mean, this is like going down to the JV squad for the night and just waxing the sophomores, dude. I don't
Good
see
is
how
a plus 150 dog. That's not that dramatic.
I mean, we're really knocking Maia down because he lost to the best of the best. I mean,
how old is Damian Maia? 78?
Yeah, but he has a singular skill that Lyman Good is not going to be able to combat.
Didn't Damian Maia fight bravely in World War II?
All
right, I'm just being a jerk now.
I'm taking Damian Maia here. I'm taking Damian Maia by 2nd round. Rear naked choke.
Woo! All right. Give me Lyman Good by split decision.
Nice, which brings us to another great fight. Lightweight fight between Charles Oliveira, the all-time submission wins leader in UFC history, versus David Tamor, getting a big step up in competition. Finally getting a chance to prove he's a top 15 lightweight in the world. What are your thoughts?
This one is hard. This might be harder than Aldo Moicano, dude. I mean, seriously. But
yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to gauge Aldo because he's an all-time great, but he has so many miles. So I find Aldo very hard to gauge.
Yeah,
but I agree with what you're saying.
I mean, I think my gut is saying Timur, man. I mean, that's honestly what my gut is saying.
And my gut is saying there's no way Timur doesn't get choked unconscious by Charles Oliveira. I'm a big Charles Oliveira fan. I really like that kid. He is game. And he is nasty when he gets to the ground. He is a submission specialist. He's submitted to guys like Jim Miller, Clay Guida, Will Brooks, Miles Jury. I'm going to go ahead and take Charles Oliveira taking David Tamor out via submission in this fight.
Wow, you're making a lot of bold stoppage predictions. That's interesting. On close fights, too. Okay, all right. Okay,
These are all very close fights,
I'm doing my Tony Montana voice. Okay. Yeah, give me David Timur. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say third round stoppage.
Third round stoppage. So you see Charles fading, huh?
We'll see. I sense the condescension in your tone. We'll see.
I just want to try and hold you to something. So we'll go ahead and gloss over the next fight and go to another fight I'm interested in. It's Marcus Perez versus Anthony Hernandez. Do you have any thoughts on this fight?
Who I have to favor Hernandez on this one.
I actually favor Hernandez here too, but Marcus Perez is super game, very active, very fun fighter to watch. Anthony Hernandez came up through the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series, I believe, and I think he was dealing with his pops passing or something at that time. Real inspirational story, performed great. Been looking forward to following this guy. So I actually think he's going to outlast an early Marcus Perez barrage and finish Perez late as he fades. Third round stoppage. Anthony Hernandez.
Ooh. All right, here's what's interesting. I, for once, think that you're not giving the fighter enough credit. Hernandez by second round stoppage.
Ooh, Marcus Perez is super tough.
I know he is, but he's getting, like you said, Hernandez will survive the early barrage, and then he's going to be exhausted.
It'll be a good one to watch either way. It should be a lot of action.
Absolutely. Do we want to cover anything else on the card, or do we want to get to listener questions?
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about Thiago Alves versus Max Griffin. Max Griffin coming off was his last fight versus Mike Perry. Let me double check that. Oh, no, he actually lost to Curtis Millender last time, who's impressive. So I'm actually leaning Max Griffin on this one over Thiago Alves. I just think Thiago is aging. At this point, he looks undersized for the division. I was really impressed with Griffin's composure and distance control versus Perry. I think he's going to do the same type of thing to stay away from Alves, and I think he probably outpoints him.
Yeah. I have to agree. I hate to completely agree, but I think Griffin by unanimous decision here.
And I'll just shout out the Junior Albini diaper. Make sure you tune in.
He'll always be diaper boy.
He'll be rocking that diaper on Saturday night, and I think he's going to get a victory too. So that's probably the last thing to mention on that list. We can go to the listener questions now.
All right. My favorite section. Do you have a question lined up? Because I can.
I do. I'm going to go ahead and just jump off with one of the is funner a word? More fun questions, we'll say.
Okay.
And this is coming from Quinn. He's at Orthodox 1993.
Yep.
It says, if you could be high level at one type of martial arts, what would it be? And I thought this question was really cool. So go ahead.
Yeah, I saw that. I agree. I agree. That's very cool. So I'm going to interpret this as what is going to be most useful to someone who doesn't know a martial art. That's how I'm interpreting it. So that's how I choose. So I'm going to say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is something that I haven't been practicing for that long, just about 2 years, a little bit more, and I've completely fallen in love with it. It is extremely addictive, and most of all, what's so cool about it is how effective it is in real world situations. Obviously, you've got it's so addictive. It's so practical and clever. And if you don't know a martial art and you know BJJ only, you're probably going to be okay in 80% of street encounters.
And for everybody who doesn't know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was designed for a smaller man to defend himself versus a larger combatant. Mm-hmm. So it's a great self-defense technique. Yep. I wouldn't say that for me. I would say Muay Thai, personally, just because I love the clinch. I think the
that's
application.
My favorite one. Yeah.
I think the application with close combat, the 8 striking points, your fists, your elbows, your knees, and your feet. Some of the greatest, most beautiful strikers of all time are Thai strikers. Muay Thai strikers like Anderson Silva. So as a striker, definitely Muay Thai. I would love to be able to, land knees in the clinches and elbows from the break. And if you go back, and I watch a lot of Muay Thai fighting and Thai boxing, and it is just brutal how tough these guys are and the kind of leg kicks they take and stuff like that. So that's my personal favorite. So great question. You got another question?
Yeah, well, shout out to Paul O'Kelly. That's at Sparks F1. Again, at Sparks F1. He asked a record 9 questions.
Nice. We're not going to answer all 9.
No, we're not. And many of them were actually statements. So there weren't that many. But
keep interacting with us, Paul. We appreciate it.
Paul, you're the man. And we're definitely going to answer at least 1 or 2 of these. So we already answered a lot of these. Is it time for Fedor to call it a day? We answered. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, Conor versus Cowboy. What do you guys think? Great question, Paul. Fight Geek, start us off. Conor versus Cowboy. Will it happen? And if so, what do you think of it?
I'm just going to admit something here. I'm obsessed with this matchup. I want Conor versus Cowboy for all the right reasons. I mean, it's just very intriguing. I think where both guys are at today in their careers is the perfect time for them to fight, because win or lose for both guys, there's so much to be gained. Obviously, if Cowboy Cerrone's able to beat Conor McGregor, that is the ultimate cherry on top of his Hall of Fame career. Now, I think Conor would be favored versus Cowboy, and if Conor were to beat Cowboy, who's the winningest fighter in UFC history, that would be a great bump to put Conor back on track, to put some shine back on his star that he lost with the Khabib fight. So I think this fight is perfect. I think the personalities is perfect. I think the dichotomy between the two personalities is perfect. The proper 12 versus Budweiser, the new school versus the old school, America versus Ireland. I mean, what more could you possibly want in this fight? And the fact that it doesn't have immediate title implications, I like. I do not believe either are in line for a title shot.
Thank you. Agree.
Again, I said light heavyweight. Man, I'm embarrassed. Lightweight. Neither are truthfully in line for the lightweight belt.
I agree.
They may be because of politics and UFC bias, but in real life, they're not. So it's a perfect matchup for both of them at this time, in my opinion.
And who do you got winning that? I got to put you on the spot there.
Oh, I hate that. Today, as I sit here looking at both of their names on paper and the uncertainty surrounding Conor McGregor and his commitment to the game, I would favor Donald Cerrone today.
Yeah. Yep. I hate to agree with most of what you said, but hard not to.
I think prime McGregor, Apex McGregor versus prime Cerrone, Apex Cerrone. I would take Conor.
Oh, that's a whole different story, though.
Right, but I believe we're well past seeing the Apex level of Conor McGregor at this point. And until he shows us again, I don't know that we have proof that that's coming back.
I totally agree. I think and what was most concerning for that was when John Kavanaugh said that he would need to be convinced to coach Conor again. I think that was very telling.
Yeah, and the fact that from what I can see and gather, Conor's training alone now in his house, right? I mean,
I don't even, yeah.
And his main training partner just got cut from the UFC, which isn't a question, but Artem Lobov, the GOAT, was cut. He's no longer in the UFC, and
can we put those jokes to bed now that he's cut? I think that's.
I will never put those jokes to bed.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Because if you understand the joke, there's no reason to put it to bed.
It got old. Jokes get old.
Okay, can I just ask another question? Sorry, Paul. We're kind of we're doing a spin-off of your question. But does it feel like the Conor McGregor era is coming to an end in the UFC? His coach has publicly said that he's not working with him. His sparring partner and his best friend has been released from the UFC. He's lost his titles.
Of course it does. I would say it was coming. It was coming to. It came to an end.
Now the second part: is it coming to an end?
Yes.
And if so, will history look back on Conor's reign kindly, or will it be a gimmick?
Okay, that's a good question. I think that
These are the things I ponder.
No, this is interesting. Okay, so look, history may choose to look back on Conor very harshly, and that's.
I agree. I think that in the moment
that doesn't
Conor
change
is
what he
celebrated,
did.
but I believe he will be. I think history will remember him as a plastic champion for the most part.
He revolutionized the sport. He brought it to a completely different plane of reality.
He did not revolutionize the sport. He revolutionized the marketing of the sport.
Which is the same, one and the same.
But the technical application of fighting has not been changed by Conor McGregor.
Oh, I didn't mean that. I meant...
Right. Well, I mean the sport as a sport of martial arts has not been affected by Conor McGregor in a technical application, as in he's not so groundbreaking that he did something everyone's copying. What he did is sell himself and have a country behind him and give a blueprint of how to become a superstar.
Right. I mean, just look at his pay-per-view numbers. No one comes even close.
Right. And this is what I always tell people. Conor is the biggest star. He's not the best fighter.
Agreed.
You must understand
Agreed.
that. Right.
I don't even think we're disagreeing here. I'm just saying...
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
No. I'm just saying, it's very hip. It's very in fashion to hate on Conor now, which I understand. But he did take the sport to another level. Do I think that ESPN would have a deal with the UFC if not for Conor? Absolutely not. Absolutely.
But it's clear he's not the best lightweight in the world, and he's not the best lightweight of all time.
We're not talking about that, though.
I know, but I'm saying we're stating for the fans or for the listeners that Conor McGregor is obviously not the best lightweight in the world. He's lost to Khabib.
Of course.
And he's obviously not the best fighter in the world. We've seen a handful of other fighters who are better than him today.
Of course, we live in the real world. We're not gonna. I mean,
right. You're not gonna see Conor at number 6 on our pound for pound list. So check it out.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on. You got another question here? Looks like I've got one. Leo Hakkinen, at Hakkinen Leo.
Yes. And I think this is the last one, because the others, there's one or two more, but we did answer those questions indirectly already.
Awesome. So I like this one, and I thought this was a legendary troll job by Max Holloway. He's got a sponsorship with Jameson now, and Leo's question is Max Holloway sneaky McGregor call out on Insta, and the troll job that Max is doing on Conor right now. Have you seen this, and what are your thoughts?
I fucking love it, and I try not to swear too much, but I fucking love it. So that was awesome. It's kind of a
boss move, and he's showing pictures of him in Ireland, getting tours of different landmarks, and appreciating the culture.
Blessed is the man. I mean,
Blessed is a G. I mean, let's keep it real. There's fighters, and then there's fighters.
Yep.
And Max Holloway is a fighter, and there is no question about it. And Max Holloway's the man. I think it's really clever. It's a little more clever than I would give Max credit for, but I love that he's doing it.
Whoa, is that some shade thrown on Max? Whoa.
No, it's just that he hasn't shown us this level of pettiness before, where he's kind of going out of his way to throw shade, where in the past I feel like he's been more kind of just in his own lane, but now this is deliberate. He's going head to head with the money associated with Proper 12. He's basically saying, not only will I challenge you in the ring, I will challenge you in commerce, I will challenge you globally as a marketer, as a business person. It's a very big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with that. The one thing I'll say is I don't think it came off as petty. I think it came off as the opposite. It came off as sly and sneaky and awesome because...
Okay, I could give you that.
Yeah, it
definitely was sly.
Yeah. It's not like Max was tweeting at Notorious, meet me in the cage, bitch, blah, 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 blah.
Right,
No. This was some high-level trolling. That's what I like.
High level that's lining his bank account with his name in gold on a Jameson bottle. This is the real deal.
I loved it. Honestly, I think that if McGregor beats Cowboy, they have to meet again. I don't know how, I don't know when, to be honest, but they've got to fight again.
If Conor is the guy Conor said he was, when he was coming up and he was selling the Conor McGregor narrative and he was making movies and yada, yada, yada. He has to fight certain guys, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
He has to.
But
He
is
has
he
to
still
fight
that
Diaz
guy?
again.
Is he still that guy?
I don't believe he is. I would love for him to be, but I
Yeah.
just don't believe he is. I would love to see Conor Diaz. I would love to see Conor Gaethje. I would love to see Conor Cowboy. Those 3 fights right there, I could die a happy man. Just let me watch those 3 fights.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel the same way. But yeah, I think if they can find a way to make McGregor Holloway 2 at 55, I mean, oh my God. I am so
Part of
excited.
me wants McGregor Holloway 2 at 45.
Well, McGregor can't make 45.
Well, we don't know that.
I don't think he can. But
he always made championship weight in the past.
True.
The guy's only 28, right? 29? It's not like he's 35 years old.
30, I think. Or close.
Either way, he's young enough to make that cut. If TJ Dillashaw can make 124.9 or 8 or whatever, Conor can still make 145.
How'd that work out for TJ? Just saying.
Let's not bring it up.
Anyways, okay, all right.
So is that all we got this week?
Take us home.
Well, guys, you know the deal. You can always find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Buzzsprout, Spotify. I am at the Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We're at the Split. Let me give you that one more time. At Split_podcast. 4 words on iTunes. The Split Decision Podcast. We will see you next time. Peace.
Peace.